Hey everyone, can we just talk about the past 48 hours? I don't know of anybody who has gone through the past 48 hours and has not felt like a tremendous attack on themselves or their family. And I just want to get real about the fact that it happens, and it happens to everybody, because sometimes we think that you get to a certain point and all of a sudden, you're attack free, you're in the immune zone, and it's not true, people. And so anyway, the past 48 hours, I went from feeling so supercharged and focused to feeling fatigued and a severe headache and not wanting to do anything. And after that happens for a while, my knee was hurting. It's like, after a while, it's literally like, okay, this is not typical. Heads up. You start looking at, what thoughts are going through your mind, and what I found is that when I have thoughts that say, oh, what's the point? Who cares? Why bother? No, not going to write today. Not going to even bother to speak truth into that situation. Just don't feel like it. As soon as I hear that I don't feel like it, I know that it's an enemy attack on me. That's just, and I don't know if that's typical, for everybody, but that's usually, it's like he shows his hand at that point, because I'm like, oh, I see what you're doing. And what I have learned through it happening enough is that there's usually a tremendous blessing right around the corner. And somehow he knows about it. Now, I know he can't see the future. The enemy doesn't know the future, but he's not stupid. And so he hears conversations that are being had. He is aware of when pieces are moved, and he knows a little bit of what's happening that you don't know of, because you don't know everything. And so he could be aware that there's a blessing coming next week for you, and he's like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna mess with them, for a few days, try to derail, because that's all he can do, is try to derail what God's doing. But he can't, because God's God, and God's is determined to bless you and to have your destiny come forth, as the enemy is to derail you and discourage you. And so all he can do is kind of temporarily try to get you to pay attention to stuff that you shouldn't pay attention to. So be encouraged when that happens, because it usually means that something good is coming. Let's see here. What else? What I found when I started feeling really, really, really crappy was that things just felt very dark, and it felt very pressured. It literally felt like something was sitting on my head, and it felt very dark, and it felt like I was being pressed down. And what I realized, and what God started to show me, as I came out of this, was that the enemy tries to push you down, right? And just keep you down. But what can happen from those situations is that you literally get pushed down into the heart of God. And you actually, it's like, he showed me, it's like a mine shaft that you go down, and it's dark and you can't see anything, and it's cold and you feel like you're all alone. Lie. Even though it feels like it when you're going through this, you are never alone. He has said that he will never leave you or forsake you, and that is truth. And you have to cling to that when you're going through this, because it feels like you've been abandoned. Anyway, as you're going down through the mine shaft, and it's just not a place you want to spend any time at all, you find that you end up hearing the Lord's voice at some point saying, come deeper, come deeper, come deeper. And pretty soon you find out that you're in the throne room with him, and he gives you diamonds, and he gives you gold. That stuff that's created in the dark places, he's giving it to you in his throne room. And so when you emerge back out through the darkness and you resurface, all of a sudden the clouds part and you can see what was achieved in that time period, whether it be hours or days or weeks. It's never in vain. It's never in vain. God wants you to draw near to him in those moments. He wants you to pray even though you won't feel like it. He wants you to worship even though you won't feel like it. But the choice to be obedient to what you need to do and obedient to the truth is exactly what's going to cause the clouds to part and for you to see the sun that was always there. Whew. So good. So good. And I'm not saying I'm so good. I'm saying he's so good with the revelation he gives. And so when you resurface, you realize that you're coming out with gold and you're coming out with diamonds that you didn't have before you went through the dark time. And so you have this to share. And what you are literally doing in those moments is you are bringing heaven to earth. You are changing your perspective on those situations that cause great discouragement and frustration. All of a sudden, you can see God's hand in it, and you can see, oh, I see what God's doing there. I didn't see it before, but I see his handiwork. I see his fingerprint on that. This is good. When before you would have said, I'm not sure. I don't see God in that. And so, he wants us to regain our imaginations for his glory so that we start to use those imaginations to imagine a better tomorrow, a better relationship with people, a better situation that we're walking into, a better future. You have to be able to create it and see it so that it doesn't seem so foreign, because sometimes we can get so discouraged in the dark place that all we can imagine is more of the same and that nothing's going to change. And that's not God's truth for you. He is determined to bring forth the destiny that's on your life. He is determined to bless your life and to bring life into every single area. And so align your imagination with his. That's all the prophetic word is allowing your imagination to align with his, to imagine something, to imagine the sun behind the clouds. All the enemy can do is try to get you to think the clouds are the end of the story and that the storm lasts forever. And it's not true. It's not true. The sun's on the other side. And so when your heart aligns with that truth, it parts the clouds and you can see what was always there. All right, love you guys.